Hello and good morning. Welcome on board to Smart Means Business. Hope you are well. It is Thursday and we're definitely making sure that you are informed as you kickstart off your morning. Thursday, the 4th of May, 2023, and we are here, Smart24 Television, to make sure that we drive your business and give you all that matters when it comes to the world of business. But of course, the ideas continue to grow every other day, and you get to realize that even though with the kind of weather that we're actually having for now, you have to understand that the business world never gets to rest. It started pouring at around 5 a.m. in the morning in most parts of Kampala, most parts of the central region. And of course, the country has been experiencing some rains in the past few weeks or so. Welcome on board to your Thursday Smart Means Business. Today, quite a number of things that we're going to be having for you, and all that rotating around business. But before we go into anything else, remember to grow and start your investment with Zabu. Zabu is making it very possible for you to kickstart off your investment into Uganda's financial market space by kickstarting it off today. Star 292 hash is the USSD code that you definitely need to use to be part of the issue of investment. And remember, with this, you can invest with just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings, and you're good to go with the world of investment. Why not take it on and be part of the ever-growing investment world in the country? Zabu is powered by Alltex East Africa, which says do something new. The markets on the platform do open at 8:15 a.m. and closing time is 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. Zabu, my money, my future. Alltex East Africa, do something new. Well, off to our morning call this morning is basically rotating around something coming in from the International Monetary Fund, which was quick to remind and quick to identify that Uganda is set to post stronger growth than Kenya and South Sudan in the next financial year. Now, Uganda is actually expected to post stronger growth compared to Kenya and South Sudan, two of East Africa's, of course. When you look at Kenya, South Sudan, look at countries like Rwanda, Tanzania, all these make up the East African community. But Uganda and Kenya are one of East Africa's largest economies, according to the International Monetary Fund. But the growth, despite the presence of a number of economic challenges, is highly expected to be higher than many sub-Saharan African countries. That is the growth of Uganda. Now, despite the presence of a number of economic challenges that will be higher than many of the sub-Saharan Africa, even though we are still struggling with the after effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course the other related effects like debt repayment. There is a slowdown in the global economy and disruption of the global supply chain. Now, when you look at the other issues, the details released by the International Monetary Fund do indicate that Uganda will grow at 5.7% in 2024, which is slightly higher than Kenya's 5.4% and South Sudan is 4.6%. However, Tanzania, which is projected to grow at 6.2%, will post higher growth than Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi, and are also expected to post higher than Uganda, because when you look at Rwanda, they actually expected to post higher growth than Uganda at 7.5%, and Burundi is also expected to post higher growth than Uganda and Kenya at 6%. Now, Dr. Abebe Amero Selassie, the International Monetary Fund Director, African Department, said growth across sub-Saharan Africa will vary from one country to the other, with some countries, particularly within East Africa or non-oil resource-intensive countries, expected to fare better. However, the poor performance within some economies such as South Africa, where growth is projected to decelerate to only 0.1%, are likely to impact sub-Saharan African growth as a whole. Then growth in sub-Saharan Africa is expected to decelerate, that is to 3.6% before rebounding to 4.2% in 2024 due to the global recovery of quite a number of things. Now, falling inflation and the widening down in monetary policy tightening, quite a number of those that have been highlighted in the long run. And this is the second year the International Monetary Fund is recording low growth rate for the sub-Saharan Africa. Now, Sub-Saharan Africa has experienced a weakened economy position with a number of economic fundamentals registering volatile movements. For instance, the region has seen public debt and inflation grow to levels not seen in decades, with the double-digit inflation present in half of the countries, which has eroded household purchasing power. And on the same hand, the International Monetary Fund said Sub-Saharan Africa public debt as a share of gross domestic product has grown to 56%, which is driven by widening fiscal deficits due to overlapping crises. And of course, this has not only been that, but there is elevated debt levels, and the IMF said have also raised concerns about debt sustainability, with 19 of the region's 35 low-income countries already in debt distress or facing high risk of debt distress come 2022. Now, this has further been worsened by an increase in inflation, even as the beginning of 2023, a number of countries within the region had started to register declines. However, there are projections of the International Monetary Fund that point to inflation staying above pre-COVID-19 levels throughout 2027, which the IMF noted will need policymakers to continue a delicate balance between keeping inflation to check while being mindful of supporting a fragile recovery. Now, by the look of things here, if you're to look at the fact that even though Uganda is still actually facing some of this issue to do with COVID-19 related effects, there is debt repayment, there is also a slowdown in the global economy, and of course this has led to the disruption of the global supply chain. The IMF still predicts that Uganda's economy will be stronger than that of Kenya and South Sudan. Well, ideally, when you come to think of it, Kenya has actually been struggling as well economically. And of course, the shortage of the dollar has been another big issue. And then not only that, you get to realize that ever since they got into the election crisis, a lot has been undermining the progress of the economy under the Ruto administration after taking office last year. But of course, there are quite a number of chances, because Kenya is one of East Africa's largest economies. Not only that, it was one of the strongest by the look of things before Tanzania did shake it up to pick up during as we are heading into the COVID-19 era. If you do remember well, the late John Pombe Magufuli, as he was still president of Tanzania before he passed on, there are quite a number of reforms that he worked upon to ensure that Tanzania's economy is highly recognized as one of the strongest economies in Africa. And not only that, having been able to at least attain middle income status, which clearly shows you how much the Tanzanian economy grew. And of course, Kenya's economy later on was undermined by COVID-19. And by the look of things, one would wonder how possible will this be? Because according to what the IMF is predicting, they are not only predicting Uganda's economy to grow. Surprisingly, on the same matter, is that Tanzania's economy within the East African Community bloc is highly expected to grow bigger at 6.2%. So it is likely to post a bigger growth margin than that of Uganda, because by the look of things, Uganda's will be growing at 5.7%. Then Kenya's will be expected to grow at 5.4%. Besides that, South Sudan is expected to have its economy grow by 4.6%. The growth doesn't necessarily mean that they are overpowering the other, but it clearly shows that there will be a growth in major sectors of the economy, which shows that either way, these economies are recovering steadily after the COVID-19 shocks. Because by the look of things here, Tanzania, if Uganda is at 5.4%, you as well get to realize South Sudan picking up at 4.6% is another big emphasis in there. But also, besides that, you get to realize that Burundi is highly expected to also grow, bigger than that of Uganda. And of course, not only Burundi, Rwanda, because Burundi is also expected to be Burundi is expected to grow at 6% rather. Then Rwanda is expected to grow at 5%. Then Rwanda is expected to grow at 7.5%. yes, in there, according to the International Monetary Fund, because they do expect high growth margins in sub-Saharan Africa, which are highly expected to record some huge growth. And obviously, when you look at that kind of prediction, it is a huge one for the country, and a huge statement for Uganda's economy, which is actually heading into the national budget month that will be come June 2023. That is when the financial year will definitely be coming to an end. And of course, there's quite a number of reforms by the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, which reforms are centered around, creating room for stability within the economy. The reforms that the Ministry of Finance is strongly looking at is making sure that you look at issues to do with budget cuts. President Museveni, as you can definitely see, during the Labor Day celebrations in Namutumba, had quite a number of discussions that were rotating around ensuring that the country is going to create more jobs for the Ugandans, because according to President Museveni, 70 million jobs will be created by the government. Why? Because they intend to at least create opportunities for Ugandans to be able to at least tap in one way or the other. There is a very huge increase in different job cuts around the country here. The private sector is laying off, not only here but globally. And of course, later on in the show, we shall be breaking down for you a little bit of where we are, how we've reached here, and how we can get out of the fact that the private sector is laying off quite a number of workers due to the fact that the cost of doing business is becoming really high. And of course, the turnover is not as much as it was before for most of the businesses, which has actually led to some of them closing down. And of course, that is it for our morning call this morning. We shall be basically waiting to see whether Uganda will be able to live up to the expectations of the IMF in terms of the growth of the economy come 2024. And now we turn our eyes to the press review this morning. All right, now with the press review, I have the Daily Monitor and the New Vision. And the Daily Monitor highlights about the driver of the late minister who was shot. The driver speaks on Angola shooting. That is according to the Daily Monitor. And then also there is a report regarding nature's wrath. Floods kill 16 cut-off villages in western Uganda. That is a pictorial by the Daily Monitor this morning. And then also, away from that, is that in the regional news, schools hike UNEB registration fees. Just a few weeks after UNEB released a statement regarding hiking of these registration fees, it does seem like in some regions, schools have hiked the UNEB registration fees. Now, besides that, in Palisa, illegal labor farms thrive. That is according to what the Daily Monitor is highlighting. Now also, Uganda now slips further in press freedom ranking. Yesterday, journalists were joining the rest of the other colleagues world over to celebrate the World Press Freedom Day, which is mainly looking at how best journalists can get their freedom and exercise their duties. Now also, in the other stories, the Parliament drops proposed 15% tax on unit trusts. The Parliamentary Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development did drop this proposal in which the Ministry of Finance had proposed new taxes on the collective investment schemes such as unit trust. And apparently, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that is Right Honourable Thomas Tayebwa, was one who revealed these details in regards, who confirmed these particular details. Now, also, government response to outbreak of mumps in schools. And you can get more of this report coming in from the Daily Monitor this Thursday, the 4th. And of course, Chambogo part-time staff go months without pay. Just a look back earlier this week, there was a strike that was halted in Chambogo University, which had actually had started. It had just started for just a few minutes before the police and other authorities could stop it. And the Daily Monitor is giving you more details regarding part-time staff who are still demanding for their money at the Chambogo University. And now also has been remanded again. She was appearing before court yesterday in regards to the Karamoja saga of the iron shirts in that space. Now, away from the Daily Monitor, with the New Vision this time round, you get to realize something to do with Angola, the unanswered question. President has mourned the slain minister. Driver narrates the ordeal. Then also the Sudan conflict. President Museveni advises on the way forward, what should be done. Then also President Museveni meets MK movement leaders. In here, there's a pictorial showing President Museveni meeting the MK movement leaders, including Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who is the patron of the entire MK project. Then there is also Michael Katunji, Balam Ateng, there is Andrew Mwenda, there is Honorable Amba, then there is Michael Nwagira, aka Toyota, and of course David Kabanda, who were at State House yesterday meeting with President. They were actually discussing patriotism, Pan-Africanism, democracy, and ideology in the socio-economic transformation of Uganda and Africa. Now, floods over 40 districts at risk as 8 perish in Kisoro and 115 die in Rwanda. Floods in western Uganda in there. Now, there is also a report regarding why you must control cost quality of feeds in chicken rearing. So that is what is actually in here as more details coming up. Parliament blocks new taxes, iron sheets, Nandutu slips in Ruzira, again according to the New Vision. And then also you can get more of the other stories regarding business from the New Vision. And also something coming in for the Daily Monitor lastly here is regarding the match fixing scandals in the Ugandan Premier League. That is from the side of the sports business here, as the biggest case of match fixing in Uganda goes back to 2003 when Villa beat Difficult a call 22-1 in a bid to build an unsaleable goal difference while locked up in a tight league race with rivals Express. So there is a detailed story coming in from Ismail Dakabachigongo, giving you all those details here in the Daily Monitor. And of course, that is it for the press review this morning. And well, as we kickstart of the morning as well, we now head on ground to check out and see what is happening in regards to the traffic atmosphere, or just a little bit of how the observation is for the morning before you use any of those routes, and try to at least track and see which route would be better for you as you kickstart off your morning. We've got Andrew Berige, who's going to give us more details in regards to the traffic updates.
Thank you very much, Jerome. And today we are right here. That is at the Farewell Traffic Lights Junction, definitely observing the traffic atmosphere around this very area. I'm Andrew Berige with this traffic report today, and of course, according to the look of things here, it seems like it's quite a little congested, definitely, as we are going to observe the different routes. So if you are coming from the different areas and you're connecting to this destination, you could probably find certain alternatives depending on how tight your schedule is. Now, of course, as always, starting down on my right hand side, as we take a look at the John Babiha Avenue, you take a look that it's quite a little bit congested, and according to the look of things, quite a while there, and it's quite a thick fleet of vehicles down there. Now talking about the Kamocha, I could lightly blade a little bit. Despite the fact that the vehicles are being released there, it quite gives you a deceptive look, and it makes you feel like it's okay. But definitely, if you're just setting off probably from Kamocha and you were planning to pass via the John Babiha Avenue, you could probably find quite another alternative that is, like I said, depending on how tight your schedule is and you're coming towards town or heading towards different destinations away from here. But as long as you're going to head to this destination, you could probably think of something else. And of course, the traffic officers, as always, making sure that they control the jam. I mean, to ensure that there is quite smooth flow of the vehicles to avoid unnecessary disturbances which can come up and sometimes lead to some sort of a damage right there. So now the vehicles coming in all the way from the John Babiha Avenue, and they're heading to the different destinations have just been set. And of course, in a very few seconds, there will be, of course, another stop being put right there. And as you slope down there, it's quite a little bit heavy and quite a fleet of vehicles, despite the fact that, as we get to understand at the same time, that there is quite a lane of traffic lights, a line of traffic lights, one after another along the John Babiha Avenue. Now, away from the John Babiha Avenue, if we take a look at my very back end, and now this time around, we are talking the Yusuf Lule Road, of course, connecting all the way towards, coming all the way from Nile Avenue and connecting to the Mulago roundabout straight. Definitely, this is always quite a free lane for any person that is coming in from areas like Chibuli. You're coming in from Bugolobi and you're probably heading towards Wandegea. It's a clean slate for you, and I assure you that you will be in position to actually reach in the time you have accorded yourself to. It's quite very free. Other than actually going through town, you head to Kampala Road and you connect there. It might be a little bit harder if you're coming from Nakawa. You're coming in from Chibuli, you're coming in from Wegere, you're coming in from Bugolobi, and you're heading to Wandegea. Just cross over the Ginger Road traffic lights and head towards Garden City and connect straight to Fairway here. You'll be having quite a smooth lane. Maybe you will only be delayed a bit at the roundabout of Mulago. Yes, because there, in most cases, there is quite some jam. But at least here you'll have served some time other than going through city center and then continue that way. So this is according to the look of things. Yeah, seeing quite so many vehicles. Different kinds of vehicles, rather, public, private, are still using this very route, heading to the different destinations. Now, on the up end here, on my very left arm side, if we take a look here, of course, the Seziwa Road heading towards Nakasero, well, that's always free, and there is not really much congestion at all times. At all times, it's always free. So for the people that are heading towards Nakasero and probably they're heading to, execute some different businesses, it's quite a little bit free lane for you, and you will be able to actually go and execute the different tasks that you ought to execute. Now, away from Seziba Road, there is not really anything much there to observe. Let's take a look at, of course, crossing still all the way to Yusuf Lule. But now, this time around, we shall focus our eyes on the vehicles coming in from Mulago, coming in from Wandegea, and they are probably coming towards, they are connecting to areas like Nakawa, they are connecting to areas like Bugolobi, Chibuli. Yes, you can observe there, it's quite a little bit free. But still, the reason as why you see that there are not really so many is and you're coming in from areas like Kamocha, and you might use the Mulago roundabout, and you yes.
And well, of course, as you get to realize and see most of the things in regards to how the vehicles are actually moving for now, you come to think of it that it's not yet that busy by the kind of observation that Andrew has tried to bring for you or to break down for you. And as you kickstart off your day, for those who actually come in from Bukoto and you're using that route around the Acacia lane, and for those who actually coming from Mulago areas, going to pass through that is the Nile Avenue space, or passing around Garden City, you can see that the lane is very free for now. Those who are actually heading to Nakasero, passing via a Fairway Hotel, It is not that busy. And it's one of those particular highly respected traffic lights, by the way, around the John Babiha Avenue. Unlike the one in Ginger Road, where traffic officers seem to at least halt the movement of vehicles for close to 10 minutes as they are trying to control traffic movement. But when you look at that particular side, most of these particular traffic lights do control the movement of the vehicles. And it kind of looks similar or familiar with the old Kira Road. That is for the people who are actually heading to Bukoto and Tinda. That is around the Lugogo bypass, obviously. And of course, that is it for the traffic updates this morning. After the break, we shall be returning with Karibu East Africa and the latest from the SMB International News. Stick around. Good morning.
Smart24, driving business.